And now we're into that stage where we're kind of shifting from the team this season and now towards more personal accolades in the future. Roobroeck scored, and so did Zada. Gavin Bryant also gets one as well, but he's kind of been steady Eddie the whole year. But Roobroeck just continues to score and break rookie records for the Ice Dogs. And we've talked about that kind of at nauseum. With 24, he's now the franchise leader. And say what you will, but the last 4 years of the Niagara Ice Dogs, but their alumni are if you were to put like the all-time alumni for the Ice Dogs up against a lot of teams, like it's pretty impressive. And when you consider that Ryan has now scored the most out of any rookie, that's more than Akil, more than Phil Tomasino. I think even more than Freddie Hamilton back when because he had a really good career at the Ice Dogs in terms of being a forward. You got Ryan Strome, Verhaeghe, like the fact that he was able to beat all those guys, in his early stage of his career. Not that he's going to be them. That I think those expectations are a little lofty, but I think that it still opens the case to be said that he might be. We're talking about an odds-on NHL drafted player in what we could assume probably the top 90 at least right now, going into his draft year. And I think that as the season goes along, that's at least something to watch for where we didn't have that last year.
It's definitely an encouraging start for Ryan Roobroeck's career as a 16-year-old in this league, and he's playing alongside Kevin He now and Gavin Bryant, and we'll ask Gavin about that a little later on in our leadership lounge. But yeah, you mentioned it there. Ryan Roobroeck is now the official leader for Ice Dogs rookies with goals, and I'm trying to pull up the graphic here, and I lost it here. But regardless, he 24 goals, so he was tied with Chris D'Souza and Marco Insam for rookie. There it is. For rookie goals, not just as a 16-year-old, but overall. He had broken the 16-year-old record, which was 21. That was co-held by Akil Thomas and Kevin He, and he's shattered that, and now he's went for the overall rookie record. So that's great to see for Ryan Roobroeck. We know the work that he's put in, and just the kind of special talent that he is for this Ice Dogs group, and drafting him second overall in last year's draft. To me, he's even exceeded expectations for his first year, because to ask a 16-year-old to score 24 goals on a team that doesn't score a lot and is in a rebuild, that's really tough and lofty expectations to expect a guy like Ryan Roobroeck to do it. But we talked about it all year. He's been able to produce and, like you mentioned, lead the rookies in shots. He continues to throw pucks on net and continues to get better. And we've seen him play a little bit of center, but I think that they're more comfortable with putting him at the wing for his first year as he continues to learn how to play the center position at the OHL level, continues to work on his faceoffs and things like that. But I think we'll see Ryan Roobroeck at center as early as next season on a full-time basis. But I've enjoyed seeing him on that left wing this year because he's so dynamic.
I think that one of the biggest things this offseason, whether it's an overage or a trade, or even someone that's currently on the team, they need to find, like, when you look at the roster makeup of the team, obviously the two on forward in Kevin and Ryan and Roobroeck, and as well as Gavin Bryant. I mean, let's not take anything away from Kevin because he's having a pretty good offensive season as well. But Kevin leads the OHL in shots, and Roobroeck leads rookies by a ton in shots. They need to find, I think in a perfect world, you can split them up and have someone who can feed them, like just get them into positions where they can shoot and use their shot. I think is going to be a massive thing that could, only assist. You still think that Roobroeck ends up at center?
I think that they're going to try to put him at center because I think that was his natural position, and he's got the size, like you quickly mentioned there. And obviously, it's nice to see him skating down that left wing, but I think where he's most valuable is as a center iceman in this league, and same with Ethan Zada. I think he's a guy that when they drafted him, Wes Consorti said every team needs an Ethan Zada, a guy that's a great 200-foot centerman that takes key defensive, offensive zone draws. And I think when they end up becoming a playoff team, Ethan Zada is going to be one of those key guys that you're going to need for a deep playoff run, in that middle six center ice position. So I look at both those guys that they took with their two top 5 picks. They're obviously not going to have 2 top 5 picks this year, but but it's they're continuing to build that core with Kevin, and like you mentioned, whoever their next first round pick is going to be huge as well for the organization. So like you mentioned, I think going out and getting another playmaker. They have Gavin Bryant, who's a playmaker, to play with one of them. But if you want to split them up, definitely maybe if Alex Asadorian takes another step forward. But again, like you mentioned, both those guys are shooters, so they're both playing together, which is crazy. Is they both shoot a lot. So
I know that's what's so surprising is that they play on the same line essentially now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that Kevin is. I think that the part of Roobroeck's game that's going to take a little bit. I've talked about this throughout the season is that defensively he's a little passive. But as he's gone along this year, he's gotten a little more physical, especially in the last game. And I think that, when you're a 16-year-old in the OHL, 16 to 20 is a massive jump in age, just as like a human being. Like you're just going up against full-on adults. So, I think that's the part of the game that takes a little bit longer to come together. And we saw it with Kevin this year. Kevin's been extremely physical. I mean, to be honest, I want to say that he's got to have, he's second on the team in penalty minutes behind Federico. So, and that doesn't surprise me. I low-key thought that he might be a little bit closer, but Federico, I think he might have a couple of game misconducts or something. He's almost at 100 PIMs. But yeah, so Kevin has definitely gotten more physical, and he's bigger than you think too. So I'd love to see Ryan kind of get that edge next year. And, not all players are going to play like that, especially when you're as gifted offensively as Ryan is. But I think if that's what's going to determine if he's going to be a great centerman or not. I think there's times in the defensive zone he's a little passive, looking to get up the ice a little bit early. But that can all come with age. So when Roobroeck is probably a consensus top 2 round pick, I'm so curious. Hopefully we have Stephen Ellis on from the Daily Faceoff to talk about prospects and on our draft show. But I'd be so curious to see what like the prognosticators are on Ryan Roobroeck, because there was a lot of scouts in the game. We talked about that on our recap show for the game against Ottawa.
Yep.
Right now, obviously, Ottawa has a lot of top-end players, a lot of drafted players as well. But Ryan's going to start getting the spotlight a little bit when you almost put up 30 goals as a 16-year-old in the OHL, right? Like if he continues, when we went back and looked, like at Keel's year, he kind of had a down year scoring, but like a point wise, he increased, right? And now I'll be curious to see what happens next year with Ryan, depending on who he gets to play with.